I am going to call to order the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District special call board meeting Wednesday, May 26 at 2021, starting at 7:03 p.m. here at the American Legion Post 6, 304 Texas 123 Loop here in Lexington, Texas. I really appreciate the good turnout here tonight and the interest of the public in some of the issues that we as a board are dealing with. And it's always good to see the public out there and your interest. I believe we have one honored guest, the Honorable Judge Fisher. Judge, glad you could be here tonight. We are going to take public comments. I don't know at this point how many people have signed up, but just be remembrance that it's 3 minutes. You can give your 3 minutes to someone else, but I just want to make sure that everyone who wants to make a public comment tonight is able to address the board to express your comments. And that's very important to us, and it's very important to the governance process. So with that being said, do we have a list we can draw from to call? Okay. Okay. And as you reach your 3 minutes, don't get mad at me if I cut you off, but I want to make sure everyone gets through here tonight before we take up some matters of the district.
The highs, turn them down.
Okay.
What channel is it?
Is this our only list? Okay.
There's multiple sign-in list, but not for comments.
Okay.
We're still signing in on that.
Okay, bring it to me when they're done, if you would, Linda.
Hey, Mike,
Yes,
can you check your mic?
sure. Is this test?
Take your hand and put it over the top there. That's good.
Okay.
Bump his volume a little bit, probably.
Okay. And if during the meeting you can't hear what's being discussed, please let us know so that
Move up to
we'll up the volume so that everyone can hear our comment. Linda, thank you for your assistance tonight. We got a big list, okay? The first person I will call, and when you get up to address the board, please state your name and if you're and your place of residence, so that we have an idea of who's here tonight. But it's most important that you state your name so that it can get into the record of this meeting. The first individual, Michael Johnson, landowner.
No, that's not.
That was the second one she.
No.
You don't
want
want?
to make a comment, that was just a sign of minutes.
That's just a visitor signage.
Oh, that's just a visitor sign-in sheet? Okay. All right, good. This is public comments, all right. Then the first person I would like to call is Mr. Nathan Bryan.
Where shall I address?
You can stand there. I think back there is too far, but if you could just come up to about that table there in the middle there. Not trying to make you stick out, but
Well, thanks for convening the meeting tonight. My name's Nathan Bryan. I own several hundred acres in Burleson County, just over the Milam and Lee line. Also own some property here in Lee County. I attended early meetings in Milano, Bastrop, when this project first started. I listened to a lot of geologists, a lot of engineers that made fancy projections on what was going to happen to our water table. And I sit back and watch. I had enough sense not to lease my water rights. I understand the preciousness of this resource. And yet my water well has dropped 60 feet in 6 months. So this has to stop. I protested, I raised hell in Milano several times. I think it fell on deaf ears, but as long as my water's being pulled out from under me, you're gonna continue to hear from me, whether it's in Lee County, Burleson County, or Milam County. Because this is, I think it's criminal, and I will be the squeaky wheel. So I think, us as landowners have to be good stewards of the land. This water's been taken from us without my permission. I think probably a lot of our permission. And we have to do something about it. So I hope that you will listen to the landowners and help us preserve this precious resource.
thank you, Mr. Bryan. Okay. The next individual, Mr. Ernie Bogart. I know he's here. I saw him earlier.
Yeah.
Ernie, take your time. No.
I'll go over and just jerk my crutch away. My name's Ernie Bogart. Barbara and I own about 26 acres out, 3 miles out of Elgin in Bastrop County on Old Red Town Road. We don't have a well. We've got some nice stock tanks. We're dependent upon Aqua for our water supply. We feel like the future of the county is dependent on maintaining an adequate supply for the future use of the people that are using the land and living on the land. I'm concerned for those people that do have wells, and I'm concerned for those of us that don't have wells but are dependent upon water suppliers to use those wells. I've never seen any projections that said that even at current pumping rates, that the aquifer is not going to continue to fall and fall fairly rapidly. As much, I don't know the exact figures, but in 50 years it's going to fall dramatically. So I appreciate your service. I know it's a tough job, but I think we have to hold the line on the pumping from this aquifer as much as we can to make this supply last as long as we can for the people that own land here, and maybe for our children who will own land here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Mr. David Langford.
Yes, I'm David Langford, net loan land in Bastrop County, live in Elgin. We use our water on a daily basis. And I think from all the available science and models and so on we have, that it has become obvious that the pumping rates that we have from the well is not sustainable. We talk about desired future conditions. We need to think about the desired future conditions of these surrounding counties in this area of Texas, because those conditions are not going to be good if we drain this aquifer and it is depleted or damaged in any way. So I think the state has given y'all a very tough task, and I appreciate all your effort and thoughtfulness and so on that you put into this, but it is y'all's duty, I think, to curtail this so that we can save this aquifer from going dry in 50 years. Another thing I noticed, I don't know if this is actually on the agenda tonight, but as far as mitigation for wells and so on, obviously people's wells that have gone dry need to be compensated, but I think we also need to consider the fact that if we have major drawdowns in this aquifer, we may face land subsidence, which we have seen in California, seen in Florida, seen in a number of other places, and along the Gulf Coast. if we have to do mitigation for that, that is gonna be extremely expensive. So I think we need to nip this problem in the bud before we go any further. I do appreciate your service, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Miss Michelle Gangus, and Miss Gangus, Miss Curtis has also given her 3 minutes to you, so you have 6 minutes.
I won't need them. You guys have heard from me a lot. My name is Michelle Gangus. I'm a landowner in blue, 10 acres, but I don't have a well. I'm on Aqua. But I'm a board member of the Simsboro Aquifer Water Defense Fund, along with Ernie Bogart, who you just heard from. Andy Weir, another board member, is here, and Travis Brown, another board member, is here. Travis is Lee County, Andy's Bastrop, Ernie's Bastrop. Simsboro Aquifer Water Defense Fund made a presentation to you last Wednesday night, and I don't need to repeat all of that, but it is the desired future conditions that we're worried about, because we're happy to see you compensating or thinking about compensating some of these well owners who, through no fault of their own, are having wells go dry. But the bigger problem is, how do we keep our aquifer healthy? I think I said the other night, there's probably not a landowner anywhere here or out there who wants to be compensated for destroying an aquifer. And so that's what we want you to focus on. There is a win-win here. If you balance conservation against development, you should be able to lessen the need for mitigation. So no one is picking on you about mitigation. There's a real need out there, and it's going to continue. And I don't know what you do about it in the future. You've got to be thoughtful about that, because the same people could end up having to lower their wells again. Post Oak is telling people to go 200 feet, not 100 feet when they lower it, and that's just kind of unheard of. So all of those things should tell you that it's a very thoughtful process to think about mitigation, but you've got to put some hard work in on balancing all of the competing interests. Right now, the proposed desired future conditions, meaning the conditions our aquifer will be in 50 years, 100% protect the big pumpers and 0% protect exempt well owners. That's not the way it was set up to be. There's got to be balancing, and there's a bunch of other interests, namely our surface water. The Colorado River is at risk from all this pumping. So I'll quit harping at you, because I do appreciate your service. I thank you for coming to Lexington. I wish next time we could give us a little more notice. We did our best. I think we got a lot of people informed, so I hope we have a good meeting, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, Michelle. The next individual, Mr. Kermit Heaton.
Yes, sir, I'm Kermit Heaton, and I have a ranch with a well northwest of Bastrop, just over in Bastrop County. I mean, north of Page, just in Bastrop County. And I'd like to address a couple of terms that I've heard since I've been involved with the LCRA issue and with the Groundwater Conservation District. One is they're always referring to water developers. Well, from my standpoint, and what I refer to them as water pirates. A pirate is somebody who takes something without paying for it. And the water developers, what I call water pirates, are trying to take water. And let me tell you, my opinion is there's just a few of them showing up now, and there's going to be a bunch in the future. Because water is going to be worth more than oil, and we all ought to understand, and being in Texas, about oil and all that's involved. We've got to protect all of us from because of our property. Without the property, I can't fulfill the nation and this Texas responsibility to protect my life, liberty, and property. Because if you take my water, I can't have the life and liberty that I currently have. The second thing I want to talk about is averages. Almost 60 years ago, when I was in high school, there was an old farmer that taught science and math. I thought he was old. I mean, he must have been at least 50. Anyway, one of the things he taught me was averages. And he told us in that class that averages can tell you something, but you need to understand if you're sitting there with 1 foot in boiling oil and 1 foot in liquid nitrogen, on the average, you're comfortable. And that's what I think about averages for the desired future conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hugh Brown. Mr. Brown, hadn't seen you in a while. Good to see you this
Yeah,
evening.
nice to see you. You know, if you got comments, I'm gonna be up here. And thank you all for having the meeting here. I have 153 acres, about 2 miles north of Blue. And fortunately, no wells in the Carrizo Formation, but in the Calvary Bluff and Simsboro. I got my place about 1975. And very soon after that, I had a well put in. The static level in the well was down about 25 feet. Now it's about 100 feet lower. Now that's before all this big water pump. So I'd say the aquifer's already under stress. So yes, we need mitigation, but more than that, we need to have pumping regulated so that mitigation is not necessary. So that we're not spreading grief around and hurting people. I would also like to suggest, as I've suggested to you before, that we need to think about projects where we increase the recharge rate into the aquifer. There are various things that can be done. It's been done on other aquifers. We need to see what we can do. Now, there'll be a learning curve here, and that's, I think, why we need to start. The sooner the better. So we learn how to do it on this aquifer. And so we need to basically make the pie bigger. We've got only about 5% or so of the rainfall makes it down to the aquifer. If we raise that to 10%, we would double the recharge, and yet going from 95% down to 90, it wouldn't make much difference to the land otherwise. So we need to work on that. But we certainly need to have as fallback mitigation for damage that's done to wells, and mitigation that is prompt and thorough. So, and doesn't require me to take some big operator to court, because we can't do that, and we can't afford that. But we need to have it be fair and effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hugh. Linda, you had a couple of minutes left. Did you want to say anything, Linda Curtis?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone who had wanted to address the board but didn't get an opportunity? Okay, so come up and just state your name like everyone else has, and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Tom Glass, and my wife and I own property up on the knobs that border Bastrop and Lee County. We're County Road 305 and Knobs Road where they meet. And we have 2 wells, one of which we use all the time. Back 6 years ago, we put in a backup in case the power was out, a hand pump into the well. And we set it higher than the electric pump. And after the winter storm that happened recently when we didn't have power, and my well, I had to have well work done. I went out and tested the hand pump. When you have a backup, you don't go test it very often. So I went and tested it, and I could not get any water to come out, whereas I had in the past. And that leads me to suspect that the level of my there has dropped below where my hand pump is. I don't know that for a fact, and I need to do some more diagnostic work. But I wanted, while we're talking about aquifers dropping, at least I've seen that kind of evidence that maybe that we're there. I will say one other thing as a property owner here who hopes that this land that we own will be in our family for a long, long time, is that my desired future condition of this aquifer is that it's there available for my children, my grandchildren to use. I do not, my desired condition is not to have a drained aquifer in 50 years. So that's pretty much what I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishes to address the board that didn't get an opportunity to sign up? Yes, sir.
My name's Eddie Stafford. I live in County Road 406, about 5 miles east of here. 2 years ago, Wayne, my well man, came out and put a new pump in, and he said, we're gonna lower you another 100 foot just to be safe. We set on 78 foot, it went down to 165, and yesterday, it went dry. Nothing there. So he's come out tomorrow to drop it another 100 foot. But I mean, it gets pretty expensive if you gotta spend a couple grand every 2 or 3 years to keep lowering the well. And I appreciate what y'all do, and I don't know what the specs are for well droppage or aquifer for dropping. Just drop it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate the information. Okay. One last time, anyone else?
I do. I'm Wayne. I'm the one that services the pumps. You know, I got 4 of them right there that I work with already. So, present time, Lee County, Northeast Lee County, 25. Mr. Eddie and Nancy's yesterday. Biggest concern I have, a lot of them just got Band-Aids put on. Because they don't have the money to put a new pump in and go deeper. I mean, overnight, they had a problem. Takes $1,000, $2,000, up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 if you gotta get a bigger pump and go deeper. Bigger pipe, bigger wire, bigger pressure tank, it gets very expensive. I also work in Burleson County, and the biggest thing is they get compensated, and I think that's what Joel, get compensated for Lee County and Bastrop County. I'm sure there's more people working on them than just me. Biggest thing is, are they gonna get compensated? If you get this compensation, is it gonna be retroactive?
I-
Done. Because a lot of it right now, we're putting Band-Aids on.
Well, clearly, it was the board being notified of the number of wells that were going dry. And I know that in putting this together, Mr. Totten tried to establish how many wells have currently gone dry. So I think it is
25, 26 yesterday that I had worked on.
right.
And that's since last June.
Right.
Some of them's been done twice.
Okay.
Mr. Cotton was at a well, we put a camera down about 2 Wednesdays ago. I never got any word. When I worked at Burleson County, they tell me what to do. Over here, I still got I ain't got a telephone call yet.
Okay. All right.
So,
But I believe it is the intent of the board to take care of those people who have been impacted by this situation.
because some of them don't have the money.
Mhm.
Man, the brush right up there, he put his in 3 years ago. Another one on 411, he put it in 1 year ago.
Mhm.
He already went dry.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a, how many Band-Aids do we put on it?
Right. I understand.
And it's hard to walk up to any one of you customers. That's what's hard on me. When I get a telephone call to go that direction, I'm already scared. First thing I do is cut their pump off. I don't want to burn it up. They can lose their well, not just the pump.
I understand.
They can lose the well.
Yes.
And that can happen.
Yes.
And it does get expensive.
Yes, it does.
And it would be nice if we could speed it up just a little bit. I don't know how much it can be sped up, but the customers, I don't like their tone of voice because, they got to spend money for no reason.
Mhm. And we've heard that quite a lot, and we're very well of that issue.
And I go out there and hear all the time.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Isn't it the boards as representatives of the community to stop this? I mean, I'm hearing the same story everywhere I go. What's your job?
Sir,
to help the community?
I can't engage in a conversation with you because it's not on the agenda tonight to have that level of discussion. We are going to be talking about a mitigation program under the business items that will be discussing what the board will be considering for the district to provide assistance to those people who have been impacted.
I don't think people are looking for assistance, they're looking for this to stop.
I understand, and we certainly have done some legal research. It's a pretty complex issue, but we're also trying to have an item on the agenda tonight to create a management zone, which should give another additional tool to the general manager and the district to get a better handle on this issue. So we are trying to put some things together. All right. Anyone else? Yes.
I have to speak, so I
Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I do.
My name is Jean Rhodes, and we live on 411. His family, my husband's family, has owned the same land for well over 100 years. We have children and grandchildren that we hope to inherit our place. Our well is not dry yet, but it's getting there. Our neighbors has already had problems right across the road. And I really feel like what you said is correct. It's not so much the mitigation. Fortunately, we can afford to go deeper, but a lot of people can't. It's not the mitigation, it is stopping it so that we don't have to go to mitigation. And I understand the right of capture, and I understand, I mean, my husband's, told me about the right of capture, so I understand that. But is it right for other places, big cities, to come in and suck up all the water so my children and grandchildren won't have any? So, to me, that's the most important thing. It's not getting money to pay for something we already have paid for or are going to have to. It's to get it to stop so that we will have water.
Amen.
What's your name again? Jean, J-E-N-E-N, Rhodes, R-H-O-D-E-S.
Anyone else?
My name is Tommy Claiborne. I'm from Bastrop. Farm been operating in our family since 1848. We have 7 wells on them. Most of them are hand-made. I just kind of want to talk about the elephant in the room. Because out in Bastrop, and if you don't see it here, you're going to see it here. There's so many subdivisions and so much development. I mean, you're talking about 200 acres here, thousands of homes coming in. They all have to have water. They're all coming from somewhere. I think it behooves us to check into the county permit policies, because the county's not going to be responsible. And we're the ones up here on the front line talking about it. How are they going to get the message if we don't have some kind of leverage with them? That's all I got to say, but that's, if the development hasn't hit your area yet, it's coming. And the water is just going to keep going out like it always has.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Claiborne. Okay.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I changed my mind.
I'll always defer to you, Judge, so.
And I just want to address something that you talked about the county. We are going through an explosion of subdivisions right now. Just had a guy in the office today, 100 some odd acres into 1.5 acre lots. We had the subdivision up in both his, anybody from that area. There were 49 lots, and they sold within 30 minutes. That's how fast they moved. On that subdivision, we made sure county, and I was in meetings with Mr. Bucky, Mr. Turner, and make sure, do you have ample water supply? You know, that you don't sell these acreage in 10 years down the line. And Jim was involved in that. We met with him or talked to him, and to ensure that that subdivision would be able to supply those people with water. So we are watching, we're trying to watch everything. We're just redoing our subdivision rules. I think next Commissioner's Court will have our first part of the subdivision, and we're looking at everything, fire department, so forth. So county is addressing. If there's something else we need to know about, please call us. We're open. Again, you know, everybody said y'all doing a good job. I told Larry a while ago, you know, it looks like I'm going to retire, and there's no way the county judge will ask me to serve on this board. If somebody retires or resigns, I'm going to run the opposite direction. But again, y'all got a big challenge ahead of you. It's not going to get any less. It's just going to get worse. And the more water, and we're just at the beginning of pumping water out of Lee County and Bastrop and Burleson County. And you know, I mentioned the other night, I don't know if we can set up a fund to anybody that wants water in the future, that somewhere money is set aside to help the landowner. You know, another concern I have, if Linda comes to this mitigation on her pump, and 5 years from now, she's sitting there and got to drop another 100 feet, will she be able to come to? And I think the board is trying to put all this together, and it's something that I would appreciate y'all would take a look at it. Now, how often can a landowner come back? You know, I heard the figures, I heard the numbers that Wayne gave a while ago, and I had the privilege of meeting with landowners about 2 weeks ago, and you know, I sat down and faced real human beings who have run into the problem. And I don't have a well. I do know my dad did, and I know the problems that do come with a well. I know there's a lot of people, I heard somebody mention a while ago about leasing. Some people are rethinking what they did, but it's too late, you know, and I have a problem. We're trying to conserve water, make sure we're taken care of, and we even discussed the other day at the meeting of maybe the landowners develop a co-op and buy X amount of acre feet of water to ensure that landowners in Lee County have water also, just like, you know, Saul's down in San Antonio. And yep, it would require a due type deal, but you know, to try to reserve something in which, you know, that board, how many acre feet, everything's got to be figured out. But again, I think y'all got a big, let's just say what it is, a big problem ahead of you guys. And we're going to have to address it. And again, from the county, I want to tell everybody, thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge.
Can I have the last 15 seconds or no?
1 minute, sir, because we really do need to.
Kermit Eaton from Bastrop County, and the growth in Lee County and Bastrop County is a hill to climb, but I think it's one that can be climbed. But when you add the mountain in Travis and Bear County, it's insurmountable. We got to keep the water in Lee and Bastrop County, not ship it out of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, I'm going to at this, yes, ma'am.
I'm Kathy Glass. I live on the Knobs, and I'm a lawyer, and I want to change the rule of capture legislatively or judicially. And so if that interests you.
You bet.
Afternoon. My name is Stephen Knobloch. I'm a Lee County Commissioner for Precinct 4. Most of the red dots I've seen up here with everybody's wells are in Precinct 4. The judge spoke a little bit on the subdivisions that's being taken place. He didn't mention the one out on 405. I did a quick count in here. There's about 75 people. We had our first meeting on the subdivision. 850 acres, going to be divided up into 75 lots. There are going to be some restrictions, but I'm telling you, that's another 75 people sitting here. So, you know, I appreciate what everybody's doing here, but like the judge said, the subdivision, there are people that are coming to Lee County, and they're all going to need water. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. Appreciate all of the comments and that you have expressed to the board. We certainly will take that under consideration. At this time, I'm going to move down to item 4. Item 4 is discussion, consideration of, and possible action on amendments to the district budget to establish a mitigation fund and evaluate options to establish a well assistance program for well owners in the district. Jim, do you want to give the presentation on this?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I tried PowerPoint before y'all got here and realized it's not working, so we're stuck with the PDF version. Can everyone hear me, or do I need a microphone?
Jim, take this one. Take mine if you want.
This one.
Mike? Okay. Or not. I'll try and speak up if that works.
Here, this one's louder.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public, what we have here today, we have basically two presentations. The first is in regards to the mitigation program that has been developed and reviewed by the Lost Pines Budget Committee. The second program that we'll get to on the next agenda item is the management and production zone proposal from the monitoring committee. Just a quick recap before we get into it. So both of these projects are in response to impacts from production associated with the Vista Ridge project. Vista Ridge, as you know, was permitted by Post Oak Savannah Groundwater Conservation District. They began producing water in 2020, so they've been in full production for about a year now. Those permits, with regard to the Carrizo, it's about 15,000 acre feet per year from the Carrizo. The Carrizo aquifer is the formation that we're focused on here today. So kind of enhancing the map, this is the Carrizo, the Vista Ridge specific impacts in the Carrizo based on our modeling for the year 2070. So based on this model, this is what we're kind of defining as our impacted zone. This is where we want to start our focus on before we move out into the rest of the county. Going forward, what we're defining as that impacted area is essentially the area north of Highway 21 and east of Highway 77. That's where the majority of the drawdown is concentrated. That's where we're seeing the majority of impacts. So that's where we want to focus our first responses. It's approximately 110 square mile area, and I believe it's mostly or entirely within your precinct 4. Based on the district's current estimates, we know there are at least 75 registered wells in the area that are potentially completed in the Carrizo. Using that as a basis for a worst-case estimate, we figure that could be as high as 150 once we take into account unregistered wells. So we built this program based on an estimate of having to do mitigation for up to 150 total wells in this impacted area. Based on conversations with Mr. Easel and also with some representatives from Post Oak Savannah, we came up with an average remediation cost of approximately $3,500 per well. Obviously, this is a starting point. Mike, sorry with you, we can maybe take some comments afterwards. So with you all here tonight, you can give us some feedback on what that dollar value has been for those of you who have had to do mitigation, if that $3,500 is a good starting point or not. But right now, we base that at $3,500. The 150 wells, that comes out to just over $500,000 in mitigation fund from the district. And we are aware that some mitigations do require significantly more than that $3,500. So what we are proposing, what the budget committee is proposing, what staff is presenting, is to establish a mitigation fund to reimburse Carrizo well owners for costs that have been incurred due to having to lower their pump or upsize their pump over the past year and then carrying on into the future. Part of this reimbursement project, the reimbursement will be based on documented work performed. So we will develop an application process that will require documentation of services performed, new pipe added, new wiring upgrades, everything that's been done to help us evaluate the remediation process. At this point in time, one of the questions for the district or for the board is to determine how we want to handle the overall payment. Do we want to establish a maximum fund cost, or do we want to establish a maximum per well payment system? And that will be part of our discussion here tonight. Also, as part of this, as part of the mitigation process, we will be registering all previously unregistered wells with the districts. That way we can get them into our system and we know that they're out there. Currently, the proposal that has been submitted to the board would be that using that $3,500 estimate, the district staff would be authorized to immediately make the reimbursements up to that $3,500 estimate. Any reimbursement above that would be referred to the monitoring committee for review. The monitoring committee could then make recommendations to the board for approval of mitigation projects requiring more than that $3,500 average. As part of this project, there would be monthly reporting to the board on payments, total payments out, and total status of the fund that would be added to our normal financial report. Because this will be an ongoing issue, the program scope and the area, the impacted area would be reviewed annually. By incorporating more monitoring data as we work through the coming years, the idea is to get the monitoring program to stay, or the mitigation fund to stay ahead of impact, so that rather than having to reactively pay people for impacts, the district can get ahead of that and start kind of heading off some of these problems before they occur. Because Mr. Easel, like you said, it's not just going dry. Sometimes the pump overheats and it takes out the whole well. So if we can avoid those impacts, that would be the goal of the project going forward. So from the district staff tonight, the actions that we're requesting, step one, we've never approached anything like this in the district. So I would ask that the board of directors authorize the district staff to work with our financial auditors to make sure that we have appropriate internal financial controls to oversee this program, so that way when we do our financial audit next year, we don't run into a problem with them. I figure it's better to get that on board first and foremost. Secondly, I would ask the board to authorize the district staff and consultants to begin developing an application process and set of forms to cover the cost to allow well owners to apply for the reimbursement. Thirdly, and this is a discussion we need to have, we need to look at, like I said, the proposed authorization levels. At what level can the district staff sign off on a reimbursement? At what level does it need to be reviewed and approved by the monitoring committee and the board? And then if desired, either set a maximum per well reimbursement level or possibly consider saying a maximum program cost. So that's where we're at with that. And I'd be happy to answer questions from the board.
Jim, I think it is very important that this program be reviewed with the auditors. I'm bringing this up now because I feel that these are going to be some discussion points that you'll have with your auditors. They may require that someone actually go out and physically look at the well. Does the cost estimate, is it compatible with the work that's being proposed? And then a post-inspection to confirm and certify that the work was actually done. Because these are public funds, and there has to be some checks and balances. So they're probably going to want to talk to you about that. One of the other things I thought might come up with them, and I would think that there would be some flexibility in setting some range, but let's say you have a $10,000 project. Are we only going to look at one bid, or do we need to look at more than one bid? I mean, we want to provide the assistance, but again, this is public money, and so those are some things that you'll be getting in to discussion, I believe, with your auditors in setting up the parameters of your program.
Yes, sir. And in that regard, part of the we are structuring this as a reimbursement program,
Right.
and through that we are we aren't taking on bids, we aren't taking on the cost of performing the services. We're simply so that in terms there's no bidding on the district's part.
Right, but you are using district funds, and there has to be, at least from my perspective, when you use public funds, did the money go where it was supposed to go? I mean, there's a big uproar in Austin right now that over $1 billion in aid to people who needed money during the pandemic and the winter fraudulently lost their money, never got it. I mean, and a lot of people were negatively impacted. I don't know what kind of controls the state had in place, but as a steward of public money, I think there has to be a verification that there's the need, the verification that the work was done, and both the property owner and the district are in agreement. And then again, on a smaller repair, they'll probably defer and accept one bid. But I think as you start creeping up, they may request that we get more than one bid. I'm not saying they are, but from experience over the years, these are some issues, and the board clearly has the authority up to, I think, $50,000, I believe it is, before just because they're doing the work doesn't negate having to go out for public bid if you exceed the statute of expenditure of public funds, and I think that amounts to $50,000.
Well, can I say something?
Sure.
Can you hear me? The Budget Committee discussed this, and we wanted you to be reimbursed based on, receipts and invoices and the recommendation of the water well drillers. And for people that have already had the work done, we don't have the benefit of going out for bids. And I'm thinking, I worked for UT for 20 years, and I think anything under $5,000, we didn't have to have bids. And basically, I think it went up to $10,000. But still, I'm thinking if the auditors would agree that we could in-house approve $3,500 for work already done, and then if it goes over $5,000 or whatever range or limit that the auditor sets, then it would have to go like perhaps for further review.
And that's why I'm saying there's gonna
Yeah.
have to be a stair step,
Right.
because, I mean, it doesn't make sense to go through an extensive process if it's only $1,000 repair.
Right.
It would cost more to administratively handle it than it would be just to do the reimbursement.
Right.
And that's just, and I believe that authority rests with the board, but the auditors probably will provide some guidance.
Right.
Anything,
Budget Chair,
budget chair?
you have anything to say? Anything to say?
Nope.
Budget Committee?
Jim, I think based upon the comments we heard earlier before we went into this item, there clearly is a strong sense of urgency expressed from many people from the public. When would you roughly envision this program to be able to be in place?
So if we act on everything tonight, it could, I would say, depending on how fast we get feedback from the auditors, within a couple of weeks, optimistically, within a month, probably realistically. If you as a board aren't comfortable with anything that we present tonight, if you want to have some time to mull over some of the finer details, then, if you authorize us to begin working on the internal controls and begin establishing the forms and applications process, we could get that out of the way, have that ready for the June board meeting, and reconsider it then. And then at that point in time, everything will be ready, just waiting for a kickoff action from the board. So
I think you're meeting with the auditors, and I just brought up some of the issues, but that can be thrashed out with them. And I'd rather see you start getting the elements of the program put together, and then we may want to have the auditor here to make that sliding scale of cost so that we can get moving along. Otherwise, if we start providing input, we could nitpick this thing to death. And I mean, we got a lawyer, we got you, and we got the auditor. If the three of them can't put together a financial policy for this program, I'll do it. I mean, it's not that.
by happy coincidence, our auditor will be at the June meeting to present the financial audit for 2020. So he's already planning on being in attendance for that meeting anyway. So we can tie that together. So it sounds like we can at least move on the first two bullet points, gain direction from the board to begin working with the auditors to establish the internal financial controls, and working with district staff and consultants to begin developing the application process and forms, and bring all of that back to the June meeting for consideration by the board.
It would be helpful when you came back on bullet number 3, because this did come up tonight. What happens if we spend $7,000 to help someone lower their well, and then we got to come back again because it's gone dry? I just think that was an issue of concern, and again, something that we should at least, and also, I mean, you've identified the area where it's most critical as we sit here tonight, but where do you see that area being a year from now, sitting here?
So the area that we've identified as being most critical is actually based on the projected drawdowns in 2070. So we're already looking at the end of our planning horizon,
Okay.
and that is where the majority of the impact will be contained out through the next 50 years.
Right.
Now, over time, we will see smaller impacts drifting outside of that area, and that's where monitoring will come in to keep track of that and stay ahead of it.
Well, I think as you put your map together, you might say this is the most area that has the highest potential for an impact, but maybe a half a mile out a ring, is this could be an area that it could drift off into. So at least we have some understanding of the cost of the program as we continue to move forward.
Yes, sir.
Jim, question.
Yes, sir.
Your third and fourth bullets, are you asking for an or on those two?
It could be either, or it could be or. It's, like I said, our estimate right now at
Why couldn't it be and?
It could be and as well.
Okay, good.
And again, getting some feedback from the financial auditors
Yeah.
will help us determine what those thresholds might be, but,
And if I recall in the budget committee meeting, we had a lengthy discussion about this being a first time, what do we call it, a prototype, or a first shot at it, that this thing could very easily morph into something different as we got into it, but we need to get into it to see what we need to address, right?
yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. President, I'm gonna make a motion
Okay?
that we authorize district staff and the auditors to get together and determine what the internal financial controls are gonna be, that we authorize the establishment of the process of the forms with the district staff and consultants. I'm going to, for a first shot, make a motion that we put a maximum per well reimbursement of $3,500 and set the total maximum annual program cost of $525,000 to be reevaluated every year.
A second.
I have a motion and a second to, one, instruct the staff to begin developing the internal controls with the in-house staff and the auditors to begin and develop the necessary forms for the implementation of the program, set the reimbursement cost at $3,500 per well, and a total maximum cost annually at this time of $525,000.
With that being said, I would like, Jim, for you, in your application process forms and in the first two bullets, we need to look at if somebody runs over 35, how we're going to justify. You're going to bring that back to the monitoring committee to make that approval. Anything over 3,500, right?
That would be my recommendation at this point, yes, sir.
And I want to add that in my motion as well.
Okay, I accept that.
There's been an amendment to the motion that I would think this would apply to item bullet number 3, that if the cost of the well reimbursement exceeds $3,500, that the cost be forwarded to the monitoring well committee for an evaluation and decision.
I second again. Accept that.
May I say something?
Just a minute. Any questions from the board?
I have a question for Mr. Easel.
Okay.
I do too.
Mr. Easel, would you please stand?
Yes, sir.
Would you put in 24, 25 of these?
25 at least, some of them twice.
Tell me something. What's your average?
The Band-Aids are 3,500.
I'm looking, okay, that's all I need, I can ask.
If you want me to elaborate a little bit, I will.
If you don't, if it's okay with.
No, it's concerning this item on the agenda, and you can speak to the $3,500 and what you think, from your perspective, that means.
The $3,500 was the well that Mr. Cotton was at 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
Okay, because that well could not go no deeper.
Okay.
So if you want to set the pump deeper in the water, if the well is deeper, 3,500 is not good.
Yeah, because you got to extend the well
That
down.
was the well there.
Well, but and we've had previous conversations where and I, granted, I said I wouldn't hold your feet to the fire, and I apologize for doing it now, but you'd estimated that 3,500 is what you had been doing.
You said it about 100 feet deeper.
And I didn't ask the question of whether or not that was a Band-Aid. I just asked what you'd been, what work you had been doing. So that was.
My personal feeling, if the, like Mr. Weir was saying, that the water table will drop at maybe another 100 feet, then.
And
we
if
can do a
it
lot
does
more.
drop another 100 feet, they can come apply for assistance again. But
You guys haven't done your job. If it drops another 100 feet, it's protecting us.
if we go ahead and drop it now and pay them, and the model is wrong, and we don't have that issue, then we've wasted a lot of money.
Wasted a lot of money.
The
So
model's wrong.
let's take this a step at a time. We can evaluate the program every year. Somebody had to drop another 100 feet, now all we gotta do is apply.
That would be your all's decision, yes, sir. And yes, ma'am.
And that's what we discussed, and I'm not saying, that's what we discussed in the budget committee meeting on the mitigation program.
And what the board is trying to do here is two things, is to respond to the request of the sense of urgency that you have expressed here this evening, and secondly, make sure that we put together a program that's somewhat flexible, because as we begin implementation of this program, I feel confident we'll be making some adjustments, especially at budget time. And so I think the board is wanting to get this tool in place and see how the tool's working. And we're not too far off from budget time. So that's why I asked how soon we can get this implemented, so that at least we've got maybe some information as we move into budget, how things are working with the approved program that is on the table before the board tonight.
My motion stands, Mr. President.
Okay?
Director Fleming, to clarify, your motion was for preliminary numbers. This is not, you weren't proposing final numbers, is that correct? This is a preliminary starting point to evaluate with financial auditors and all that.
Correct. And
Okay.
I was gonna make that point, once we vote, that this will still, the final mitigation plan will need to come back for approval, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the final policy does need to be
Yeah.
approved by the
Yeah.
board.
I just I'm authorizing you to get started.
Right. And you heard the amendment regarding the extension, so we have a motion and a second, so I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. I would just encourage Jim that this is a very high priority. We've got people looking at us to get this going. If there's anything I can do to help out to get it speed along, just let me know, because I'd like to get something to the board as soon as possible.
We'll be on the phone with the auditors in the morning. Yes, ma'am.
How approachable are the auditors? How long do you think it'll take them to give you some answers?
They're usually fairly responsive. This may be a little out of their wheelhouse, so it may take them a little time to do their own research, but I don't suspect, they're usually very responsive to our questions and inquiries.
But the competitive bid statutes and financial laws apply to municipalities and counties the same way they do the district, so it shouldn't be that much of a quirk for them, because we're considered a political subdivision.
Post Oak's doing it, so
Yeah.
there was a model there.
Right.
Natasha, just out of curiosity, I'm not arguing any kind of point, this would be considered public money?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and I can work with the auditors if they've got questions about the funds.
Okay?
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, and thanks the Budget Committee and Jim for putting this proposal together for us this evening. And we look forward with great expectations to your draft when you get complete. All right? With action being taken on item number 4, I will now move down to item number 5, discussion, consideration of establishing a district management zone to manage production from the Carrizo-Wilcox Formation in a portion of Lee County, Texas, pursuant to District Rule 9.2 management zone. Rulemaking procedures must be followed for creation of a management zone. As such, the district must post notice and conduct a hearing prior to the creation. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, members of the public. This item is posted for consideration but not action because there is going to be a process we have to go through moving forward on this. What we are proposing here is what we tentatively referred to as the Lee County Carrizo Management Zone. This is intended to be a very narrowly tailored, very specific response to impacts being caused by production outside of our district. This is production that's occurring at Vista Ridge under permits issued by Post Oak Savannah that we don't have direct regulatory control over. So this is one approach that we've looked at through the monitoring committee to try and at least ensure that nothing in the district, no district actions will make the situation worse. We've seen this slide before. Again, this 15,000 acre feet per year of production from the Vista Ridge well field in Burleson County. The drawdown extends across the county lines and up into the area that we previously referenced as being the impacted area. Again, this is a 110 square mile area north of Highway 21, east of Highway 77. As we move forward on this process, we will have to kind of fine tune how we define the area for the management zone. The statute does allow us to tie it to surface features, but I think we would have, we'd like to try and tie it more into predicted model impacts as well as surface features, but for our purposes tonight and going forward, we could just refer to it as that triangle in between 21 and Highway 77. So creation of a management zone does require district rulemaking. It would fall under the district rule 9.2. This is in line with chapter 36 of the state water code. It's a part of our district rules right now that we have never implemented. Creation of a management zone would only apply to non-exempt operating permits, so this would be completely transparent to landowners, well owners, agricultural users. This is the management zone is strictly focused on the non-exempt producers. Once the management zone is established, it does basically three things for us. Well, for the first three, it authorizes the district to authorize total productions and make proportional adjustments to withdrawals within the affected formation. So within the Carrizo, we would the district would be able to target non-exempt producers in the Carrizo for specific management reductions. It also allows the district a little bit more tight control on the transfer of permits within that area. And then, in very general terms, allows the district to undertake other efforts that to manage groundwater in accordance with the district's management plan. So those are the first three directed from statute. The fourth thing that the management zone will allow is that the district can say there will be no new non-exempt pumping from the Carrizo inside the management zone, or that may have impacts on the management zone going forward. So this basically puts that section of the aquifer, of the Carrizo aquifer in North Lee County off limits to non-exempt pumping. And as part of that, the district will need to annually review the prevailing groundwater conditions in and around the zone and determine whether or not continuing the zone makes sense or whether the rule needs to be changed again through a rulemaking process. So once it's on the books, the district will just continuously review it. If circumstances improve, we can revisit whether or not the management zone is still appropriate. At this point in time, this is not posted for action because we do have to go through a rulemaking process that requires 20 days of notice and a formal rules hearing. Typically, we do a rules hearing at the end of every legislative session. The current legislative session has just wrapped up. So as we evaluate any rules changes we need to make to stay in accordance with the changes from the legislature, we can wrap this into it and make it part of our annual rules update based on the legislation. The district staff and consultants will continue to develop languages for the proposed rule change. As part of your packet tonight, you were supplied with draft language, basically what I presented here tonight, but much more flowery because Natasha wrote it instead of me. As another part of this, as we move forward, we do want to meet with stakeholders that have existing non-exempt wells that are in the Carrizo in this area, specifically Lee County Water Supply, and of course, the city of Lexington, just to make sure that they understand what we're doing and how it might impact them or might not impact them based on how we tailor this. So what we'd like to do now is get your feedback on basically the initial concept, and plan on bringing all this back together for the board in July.
I will just say the way it's worded is, discussion and consideration. I think it's essential that the board consider the creation of a management zone.
Yes, sir.
And that's about all I can respond back. We can't vote on it, but I strongly urge the staff to continue to work on this, and I think that, and the board can speak for themselves, but I think they will give due consideration when it's formally presented.
So I have a question. You said that one of the things the management zone can do is we can authorize the total production in that zone, right?
Yes, sir.
Or in any other zone, anywhere else that affects that zone.
That's not the language that's is that in the packet you received?
No, I think that's what you just said. Or any production that affects the management zone. That's my question. How do you know?
So what that essentially means is that somebody couldn't drop a well just on the outside edge of the management zone.
Okay.
That we can look at, if somebody wanted to put a Carrizo well in that was going to have impacts within the management zone.
Okay.
That gives us a little bit more ability to review.
So could somebody put a well 5 miles outside of the management zone? But if the analysis showed that it affected the management zone, we could reduce or not authorize that production?
That is a wonderful question for Natasha to address.
Well, she hasn't done anything all night, so I thought.
Thanks for that, Jim.
You're very welcome.
So, I mean, this is really a first impression type of management plan. And, the Chapter 36 does allow for you to do it.
Okay.
And it has to be hydrogeologically connected to impacts. There's got to be a reason to do it.
Okay.
Our rules require you to tie it to a mapped boundary.
Okay.
So when you say there's something 5 miles out, is it impacting something in the mapped boundary? That's really going to be a case-by-case analysis of whether or not they're trying to circumvent the management plan and then, this actual zone.
But we would have, if we found out that it was, that well could be affected. The 5 mile well out.
I would say they're trying to circumvent the district.
So this area that y'all drew off this triangle, really, we're worried about only wells that are being drilled in that triangle?
So essentially, what we're saying is that with the creation of a management zone, there would be no non-exempt production from the Carrizo in that area.
Period.
Period.
In that shaded area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
In that formation.
In
Yes,
that
sir.
You're not
formation.
stopping them from
In the
being out of
Carrizo,
formation.
in the Carrizo, right. Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Judge Fisher would like to address the board. I want to recognize.
I want to make sure I fully understand this. That gives a lot of power into this district, that you would be in control, and you could go to all these landowners and say, you're going to cut water.
No,
No, sir.
Doesn't
No, sir.
affect-
Non-exempt.
This only would apply to non-exempt operating permits, which would be municipal, industrial supply, basically cities and water marketers.
What it does is it gives us more power to protect those exempt well,
Exempt versus
because we
non-exempt.
can manage that zone.
All right. Mr. Glass, just step up and address, please.
I just have one question about exempt and non-exempt. Is a property owner that lives in that district who has established a lease to sell to somebody else, is that a person exempt or non-exempt?
So the designation of exempt and non-exempt comes down to the usage of the well.
Right.
So basically, if the well is producing water for resale, it would fall into the category of non-exempt. So
Okay.
a domestic well, an irrigation well, a livestock well, well to support a tank, that would all be exempt usage.
All right. Is this for people who've already done leases to sell their water to somebody else that live in there? Does that mean their contract is no good anymore, or is their grandfathered in, or how does that work?
So what this will do is what we're proposing is to limit the ability to produce from the Carrizo in that area. So in the case that somebody had a lease, and Natasha, stop me if I get off base.
I'm trying to track you closely.
I've had coffee, so. In the case that somebody had a lease specifically for the Carrizo, and that lease does not have an associated production permit with it yet, I suspect the lease would still be valid, but they would not be able to receive a permit to produce from the Carrizo off of that lease. That doesn't mean they couldn't produce from another formation, but they could not produce from the Carrizo.
So you don't have a private property right to a particular formation. So the other formations would be available.
Okay. Yes, please step up and state your name, sir.
David Langford again. Could y'all clarify, is Vista Ridge pumping from Simsboro or the Carrizo?
Carrizo.
It is both.
Both, okay.
The majority is Simsboro, but Carrizo is where we're seeing the impacts.
Okay, well, I was kind of wondering if you could explain a little bit how we're connected between those two.
There's another giant formation between the two. But yeah, the majority of the production is Simsboro, but we're not seeing the problems in the Simsboro the way we see the Carrizo. And that's why tonight we are focused specifically on dealing with the Carrizo issues.
Okay. Again, this is not posted for action other than for the board to express to the general manager, is this something the board is interested in considering and further developing?
Is it posted for opinion?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I like it a lot.
Is there anything that's not posted?
That's about all you can say. Is that's.
I like it.
So this was really a twofold thing. We're not ready to go to the show with this,
right,
because we do have the rulemaking process to go through. But we
right,
did want to get the information out there. I see Mr. McCarthy and I see Greg Grammel from LCRA in the back. I know they were curious to hear what we were going to say tonight as well. So we wanted to get that ball rolling. Like I say, we still need to talk to Lee County Water Supply, City of Lexington, other stakeholders to really get some feedback on it. But we wanted to, this is the program that the monitoring committee thought was a good idea, and we wanted to get that information out there.
I agree.
Okay. Is there any other comments from the board regarding their concepts of this program, consideration, or opinions?
Director Rogers?
Natasha,
Yep.
what if someone applies for a permit while the rulemaking process is ongoing?
So if they're applying before the rule is effective, then they would be exempt from that. They wouldn't apply it.
And how long does that rulemaking procedure take usually?
So there's a notice, and then there's a 20-day comment period, and then there's a hearing. So the board wouldn't have to act at that hearing. They could continue into another one, but let's just say they acted at that hearing. It's a 20-day process.
So could we have the hearing and have action in the July meeting? Is that enough time?
Well, if you post notice tomorrow, I believe there are some newspaper limitations in
I
here.
know.
I'm always reminded that the newspaper deadline.
Well, I think the July meeting is more workable than the June meeting.
Right.
June is
Yeah.
June is out.
But,
July.
July would be the earliest this could possibly be done, assuming everything fell into place perfectly. But there's also nothing that says it couldn't be done in a special meeting, because we have held rules hearings as part of a special meeting. So
Right.
We can get your feedback from that at the June board meeting if that's appropriate.
But also, we need to make sure that we've developed a sound program and not in haste put something together that we have to withdraw. So I just want to bring that.
Let me ask this question. Are there any pending permits right now in the Carrizo, in the Triangle?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Have you heard, Jim, what you needed to hear from the board on this matter?
Yes, sir, I believe I have. We have marching directions. Natasha, Andy, and I will know how to proceed with the developing the forms and getting the process set together for the mitigation. Peggy can start the conversation, or Peggy and I can start the conversation with our auditors about financial controls. I believe we can get all those balls rolling tomorrow. And, you know, again, we can report back at the next board meeting in June where we're at.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:25 p.m.